So, hi, welcome again to another edition of the podcast where we like to have conversations that are engaging, that are different, where we try to delve into different topics to figure out what happens in our world. So today, lucky person me again. I'm surrounded by these very intelligent young people who come from backgrounds of things that I do not understand. Right. So they work with models, they work with numbers, they are mathematicians, they are like think piece people. They're the people I sit with on my desk and we just shoot the breeze and we talk about all sorts of things to figure our way. But on the really serious part, they're the people that myself and my team at Metamedia tap into to get information on anything and everything. They help plug our work with deep insight and understanding beyond what communications actually normally gives us, right? When Isla had the magnificent idea to curate an intelligence unit, right, for the Nahana group and start to help the group in different ways so that we can start to make data make sense, right? Because as creatives, data is just that thing on the side that we write in the middle, of a report, and that's the end of it. But she had this magnificent idea to create this marketing intelligence hub, right? And these guys come from the marketing intelligence hub. You can see them by the fact that they're wearing blue shirts and yeah, they're like they're formal or they're very tattooed. You like you get all the entire spectrum, right? And of them. I'm going to have them introduce themselves right now. But yeah, so the Marketing Intelligence Hub is actually made up of people that come outside of our industry to help actually make the work that we do make sense, right? The intelligence piece, the insight piece is not something that's actually confined to marketers or creative people. And the data piece is important and it needs to come from people that actually understand what that is meant to be. So this is the right, man on my right. And Pink, you introduce yourself first. Rude, you go.
My name is Rudy. I'm the data scientist for the Marketing Intelligence Hub. I have a background in mathematics. I used to do a stint in retail, a few agencies, and then moved into online gambling. And then now I'm here. So I've got a wide spectrum.
Oh, Rudy, we're gonna have a conversation about why. Like I feel like it's the new pandemic in South Africa, online
Yes.
gambling.
Oh,
I really do. So at some point we're gonna touch on that. Okay.
Yeah, thank you so much. My name is Josh, and I'm the data analyst at the Marketing Intelligence Hub. And I have a background in mathematics. I did a degree, double majored in maths and applied maths at Wits. And I come straight from there, so I don't have much of a background in terms of work.
Dude, you double majored in mathematics. Okay.
Yeah.
That's who I work with.
And applied
Like,
maths, which makes the maths one look easy.
I don't even understand what that means, but I just know that I've got tutors for my child.
In the room, we have more degrees than a thermometer.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Wow.
So I deal with cleaning up data, do some fancy maths on it to make it more presentable in terms of visualizations and all that fun stuff.
That I know.
Right.
And I've seen some visualizations. That I know and I like. Brilliant. Little lady on my right here has been with us for a year. She came in as into our intern program, and I think she was an intern for exactly 2.3 days when she arrived. Because immediately afterwards, she was thrust into incredible spaces, and I was very fortunate that we got each other right as mentor and mentee, and it was the easiest mentorship I've had to do this year because I never had to teach her anything except to speak up and be confident. But I was learning so much from her all the time. So you introduce yourself?
Thank you. My name is Wendani. I have a background in mathematics, a little bit of computer science and statistics. I am an intern at Marketing Intelligent Hub, so I do a little bit of what Joshua does. So yeah.
No, guys, like I get intimidated when I speak to her daddy. I actually want to ask her maths questions because I'm just like, wow, right? I'm working with people who do statistics, who look at The ones and the zeros and make sense of them. My
Hi,
friend there.
I am Isla. Kaki mentioned earlier that it was my idea to put together the Marketing Intelligence Hub. I think it was coming from a place of we live in this world of data and it's getting bigger and more important than ever before. So I believe the future of agencies is built of an engine of data. But as Kaki said, what a lot of the guys in the room do is over all the agencies' head, myself included. But my job is to kind of join those two worlds together. So I understand a little bit of what my team does and a little bit of what the industry does. And my job is just how do we make sure that we seamlessly go from one to the
Yeah.
other, that we can actually use the data. Because I think we're great as an industry of talking about data,
Mm.
but not a lot actually do anything with the data.
Mm.
We don't make it come to life, that it actually means something. So yeah, that's what the kind of idea of MIH is born on. And it's what a year it's been and what a year it's going to be.
I'm Nilesh. I'm the business analyst at Market Intelligence Hub. My background is, I guess, accounting. I spent time in financial services, in retail, and somehow managed to find my way into marketing, which has been eye-opening, to say the least. But it's been fun, and it's something completely unknown to me, and that's the exciting part. It's just an opportunity to figure out stuff that I didn't already know. So that's kind of the bigger drive. And when Isla spoke to me about 18 months ago to join up, that was kind of the thing. There's so much out there that we don't know about,
Yeah.
and that has not been verbalized. And how do we bring that to life?
We're slowly getting to a point where Nilesh can come to work in jeans and tuckies. Slowly. At least he's not doing the tie and the jacket anymore. Eventually
You
we'll
have to
get
book
there.
them on a Thursday.
Yeah, I do casual
Casual
Thursdays.
Thursday.
No, guys, like,
Not in
are
the
you
office on a
serious?
Friday. Casual Thursday.
Casual
It's-
Thursdays.
He planned it himself because I just think it's casual every day.
Exactly. Yeah, so today we're going to just chat about the world. I was asking the team a couple of weeks ago about what do we think about 2025 in light of what's happening this year. Not necessarily talking about trends, because trends are great, but we need to go a little bit deeper than trends and talk about what we think the impact of different things are. So today we're having a flying conversation because it's not, I mean, can you imagine me, the marketer, moderating five mathematicians? I think that would be quite funny. But yeah, so we're going to have a flying conversation on just different things because I love how you guys think. I love how you delve into topics and dig deep. And when all of those conversations are, when we sit there around the desk and have this conversation. So I'll kick off, and any of you, please. I'm not going to direct questions necessarily. So right now, as a creative, myself as the creative, I hear a lot of rumblings, right? Where creatives are getting annoyed and agitated and irritated at this whole data conversation, right? They think there's an overemphasis on data. They think that it's not the panacea that's going to solve all our worlds. Yeah, what's your take? What's your take on that? And then how do you think we can start to marry what you were talking about, what your role is? How do you think we can start to marry data and creativity such that it makes sense for everybody in our industry, right? Because we know clients say we want the numbers, we want the results. But then there's a view that is actually what's killing creativity, right? So talk to me about this overemphasis on data and how it is that the industry can start to find comfort with it.
I'll start with that. I think data and creative are pinned as the opposites, but they by no means are. And in so many things, I always say it's never or, it's always and.
Yeah.
And I think we get it wrong as to how that and comes together. Because I think somehow along the way, we've gotten to this point where data has to translate into creativity. But it shouldn't be, because it's not a process of data to creativity. We need to split the two out. I think what it is, it's about informed creatives. They get to be creative, get to be themselves. And how do they, if they just get to understand it, then that's great. But they don't need to process data to understand data.
Yeah.
That's why we have a team of mathematicians. That's why my team hears all the time about the importance of visualization. What does it actually mean to somebody? How do we get it to a point where it enriches your understanding? Because a creator that has that base understanding can produce creative work that's relevant.
That's phenomenal.
That's built up data without it being data turns into creator. And I think that's what we need to let go a little bit of controlling the creator with data. We
Right.
just actually recreate processes where, just like we've always had, creators need days of inspiration.
Yeah.
We still need days of inspiration where they let go of everything. And they equally need days of information. But never raw data. A creator should never, ever, ever have to look at raw data. It should be in at bare minimum information, ideally insight into what does this mean? Now that I understand something, I can hit something creative that can mean something to the consumer.
So I
And
love
that's where
that
it lives.
because what you've done, you've just created 2 days. Right, you know how everybody has hackathons and that sort of stuff. So we're gonna have day of information and day of inspiration in 2025 because I think that's super cool actually. Nilesh, you're dying to say something.
It's there's always been this, it's art versus science. And to Isla's point, they're two sides of the same coin, and it's how you look at it, how you bring it together. The insight side of things is hugely important, and rather than trawling through numbers, no one we like to look at numbers, but no one really likes to look through numbers, and because it's meaningless. A spreadsheet is meaningless to a lot of people. But it is, how do we distill that? How do we get the essence? It's constantly asking the question, what does this mean? Like, so what?
Yeah.
That's one of the things you mentioned, the chats that we generally have sitting around. And the question I hear a lot from you, so what?
Yeah, so
So what? How
it's my favorite question ever. And I think young people, anybody that's listening to this podcast, never ever stop asking the question.
Yeah.
Right? Because that allows you to be able to just kind of dig deep.
Why and so what?
So when little kids go, but why? But why? But why? What? There's like inspired thinking there, guys. It's a pity we lose it.
I
as we
remember
grow.
I remember writing an article a few years exactly on that. If we can all act more like 3-year-olds and ask why, we would all be in a lot better place. So yeah, the more we can ask why and unpack, the better.
Right? As the youngest in this crew, and don't answer like a mathematician, right? Answer. And guys, when we say she's a mathematician, this young one is, what do you qualified in what? Tell them.
Mathematical science.
Oh my God, seriously. It's almost like she's my own child. I love it. Where is it that young people, especially in this industry, now that you've been in this industry for a while, where is it that they find discomfort with data? Not the young people here. Everybody else in the building. Where do you think they find discomfort with data?
Okay. I'm not sure how to answer that.
Answer it any which way.
I'm just gonna add to what they were saying.
Answer, yeah.
I think data provides us with a raw material, insights and patterns and trends, and that spikes their creative ideas. It also shows us what resonates with audiences.
Okay.
Yeah, and that allows creators to craft more meaningful and targeted experiences. For example, if you look at let's say a Spotify Wrapped campaign,
Okay.
it uses listeners' data to creatively present personalized year-end
example.
summaries, music summaries.
Of course.
Yes, which turn into viral, memorable moments.
That's such a great example because many young people will go, there's a Barack Obama Spotify list that is now being thrown around, but they actually don't realize how it is that Spotify was actually able to create that list. And I think that's how you can start to bring data alive for creators and for young people as well. That's actually a very good one. Ooh.
But like building off Rat, it also becomes shareable, like you say. But it's what's unique about you. So I am among being the weird people who do like spreadsheets. I'm one of those people that will listen to an album start to finish in track order. I cannot shuffle it, and it's one of those that it picks up every year. Oh, you're one of the few people who do this. You're one of the unicorns or the something like that. So it's like it becomes something of a competition between friends. Like, yeah, you see, I'm the normal person here. You know, people spend a lot of time crafting an album, and this is a track, and this is the ebb and flow, the narrative arc, and you bang it on shuffle, and now you've lost all of that context.
Yes.
Whereas, I don't know, most of the people in the room are looking at me thinking, seriously?
So I'm gonna come to you to sort out my music, right? Because when I put it on shuffle, I end up having Coco Melon in between Josh Groban, and it's a problem. Like, no, it seriously, it doesn't work. This conversation is making me want to talk about something I tweeted about last week because I was so mortified, right? And then Nilesh and I had an online conversation about it. Is this Jaguar ad? And in fact, after the fact, I was like, shame. I think everybody's having too much of a meltdown over it. But I was part of the meltdown, right? When I saw it, I went, what? So Elon was right, right? Elon was right when he said, "Do you sell cars?" As his response to the ad, and it had us talking and go, "What do you think?" You know, as the young people in the industry who are consuming all of this, but also understand how branding should be. What do you think? Like, tell me about what your thoughts around that Jaguar ad and where you think they went wrong or right. Personally, I think it's not great, but yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was trash.
Yeah, don't sugarcoat it.
I mean, as a prestigious company like Jaguar, that's the last thing that audiences would expect from an ad of that level. Like,
Do you think it's creative?
I don't.
Okay.
I don't personally. I think maybe some people might think it's creative, but I think if that is the case, then it is creative in the wrong direction. So it's also going back to that importance of data and how we can use data to understand consumer preferences and our audiences. And it doesn't seem like Jaguar had the right picture in terms of.
Well, they had a world-class creative create this ad, right? And hence I asked, what is creative? Because creativity is such a subjective subject, but in our world, it's actually controlled by certain guardrails, right? And you think it's trash as a young person, not necessarily as a mathematician. I mean, you did go into creating models around making sure that the ad was right, by using data, but you don't like it because it goes away from what you've known of the brand.
And I think that's, you mentioned going in the wrong direction. But the wrong direction to whom?
Yeah, it's not
Yeah,
necessarily wrong. It's just it depends on what the point was of the ad. Was it to speak to their normal fan base or their normal audience? Then it's completely wrong. If they wanted to incorporate more for young people and that type of scenario, then it was fine.
Yeah, they were going for the woke young.
Because then it's fine. If you want to get more of that generation into your brand, then it was fine. Then obviously everyone not in that generation is going to think, well, he is, but
Well, listen,
because it depends. It depends on which way you want to go. Do you want to kind of promote your current audience, or do you want to get in a new, different audience? Because then you need to change it completely. And
So then
it
that's
depends.
interesting for me, right? Because all of us, including do you sell cars, all right, are thinking about it from what we know the brand to be, right?
Yeah.
And what you've just raised now is to go, yeah, but maybe they probably don't even think about you at all. Maybe they want to reinvent the brand to a younger audience, and that's why they've got high fashion wokeness. They don't care about any of the other brand essence, but brand essence.
Depends.
But does that even make sense?
Well, look, I mean, we're all talking about it, right? Trash or treasure? And what's it? Is Oscar Wilde the quote? The only thing worse than being talked about is not being talked about. And they've come out, their creative agency has come out, and they're heads of their marketing, I said, wait, like don't jump too far ahead of this. There's stuff coming. So look, it's created a
I
splash,
also know brands who also launched and then they said the stuff coming and then
and it doesn't.
nothing,
Yeah.
Well, they're
nothing came,
backtracking
and then you
because
still
they
asking yourself. I won't say the slogans because
Mm.
I
Yeah.
get called out, but yeah.
Yeah, I think sometimes that's a wait because we realize the reaction's
Seems
bad, so
bad.
now we're gonna course correct. But
Yeah.
I think Josh spoke about it being the wrong creative, and I think it comes back to our first question.
Yeah.
Is it creative with meaning, or
Mm.
is it creative without meaning?
Yes.
Because it's great to be creative, but if it's not building a brand and converting to sales, we're not here
Yeah.
to make pretty things. We love creativity, but we're not artists. It's not here whether it should hang in a museum or not. Is it actually going to deliver? And I think I'm dying to see what the results are.
Yeah.
Because from what I've like been exposed to, I think there's a lot of arguments or a lot of like negative perception both from the consumer and from the marketing world. Because often I think like we analyze things far too deeply in our own space, in that marketing space.
Yeah.
How do we just like what does the consumer actually think of it? And from what I've looked into, like doesn't seem to be going down particularly well
With the consumer.
Yeah.
with the consumer, which is interesting. And again, yes, we're trying to expand audiences, but do you have a brand that can go to a very young, quite niche, even within the young market? The work market is relatively
small,
niche within that. So are you going to go after that market at what detriment to your other audiences?
Yeah.
Because do you want to polarize one audience to go after another audience?
Yeah.
And I haven't seen the numbers, but I'd imagine the data shows us that you can't write off Jag's old audience
Yeah.
for a woke young audience only.
I mean the leaping Jaguar.
Well, yeah.
Right? It's no way. I mean, even the logo, the progression of the logo, that throughout time, and it's not ended up in this T-shirt brand.
Yeah.
Put the brand on your pink T-shirt and it'll fit beautifully. That's all it is.
And that's the thing for me.
Color too for the ads.
And that's the thing that's kind of heartbreaking for me. Never mind the general weirdness of the ad. Like the cat itself is iconic. So even if you've changed the typeface, which I actually quite like, I like the typeface they've used because it's not the bog standard minimalist that a lot of people are going to. Not they could have
stylized.
yeah, exactly. They could have incorporated that perhaps into the Jaguar logo. But going back to, are we too data orientated? If I'm being cynical, it's almost as if there was what are young people talking about these days? Oh, it's wokeness.
That they did hone into data, right?
But it's like it's lacking that context. Yeah,
Lacking the depth.
it's the depth, it's the context, it's it's kind of it's buzzword more than any depth or any connection.
And it's interesting because there was another ad that I was watching last week, which was, the UK, everybody looks forward to their year-end Christmas ads. And Boots did an ad, which I'm not going to try to describe. Go have a look at it yourselves. But it's been criticized as being woke. But if you look at it, watching it, I didn't even feel it's that woke. I feel like this is like the complete opposite reaction. It's not a traditional Christmas setting. And they have female kind of task force saying that they're behind the Santa, and it's very like modernized, and it's got so much criticism. And the criticism, I'm like, over what? Like, I had to actually read up to understand what people were criticizing, because when I watched it, I couldn't even understand. Like, it didn't jump out at me. And I just think like we living in this world of like extremes.
Yes.
Of like so woke and so sensitive to woke. And that sensitivity to woke, it feels like just because it's out of norm, we like classifying as woke, even when it's not woke. Like what is this? And like I say, I think like this hot term that people throw around without meaning, and we jump on reactions to it as consumers, as marketers. It's just all a little bit crazy. And I think it comes back to how do we actually understand who's our market? How do we connect with them? Sometimes you piss off people along the way when doing that, and that's okay. But how do you get that balance right that you're pissing off the people you don't mind pissing off?
So now, so you've just made me think about something, right? To go, the the woke brigade, if you like, and the sensitivities around it it felt like there was a time when everything was woke. You know, you had LGBTQ, you had gender,
Fluidity, I guess.
yeah, fluidity, right? And it feels like all of that is dying down. Do you think that was a fad?
I think so, and I think with many things, it's a fad that will become an evolution. So we get the initial thing, it's new, it causes controversy.
Yes.
That extreme version of it will die down, but it will leave us with progression where we'll be better off. We won't be a binary world again.
Nice.
Yeah.
We would have moved away from that, but we won't have that hot pressure pot that we used to have of. So but you need that. It's because it's so fun because you're breaking what was.
Yeah.
And you get this extremity. But like, it's okay. Like, just know that extremity will calm down into the reality going forward. And then we'll go through that cycle again. It's just change. It's the nature of change.
Yeah.
But it's also interesting.
Which will result in inclusivity as a way that we do things versus something that we are channeling ourselves to get right.
But we have to go through that conflict to actually get there.
And it's also interesting going back to the Jaguar ad and the criticism of like the androgyny and the general spectrum. But that's not new. Really betraying my age and my tastes here. But like David Bowie and Ziggy Stardust was part of it. You look at Annie Lennox, it was a big part of her image. So like, it's not new.
It's not new.
There's nothing new under the sun, but it's how it's been packaged and how it's...
high-raised voices, but maybe that's not even new either, because you look at the 60s, right?
Yeah.
And all the change, it came with highly raised voices. So, yeah. And
it's often with the change of generations.
Yes.
And the change of shift of power of generations.
Yeah.
Because you're you're often conflicting against what you were raised as, what your parents were raised as. And it creates that. And then you step into that in between.
And now you raise something else that I've been thinking about, right? But that's the result of all of that. It's exactly to your point, right? That there's a new world order and there's a certain change that's taking shape, largely driven by social media. What's happening with youth? There were uprisings a couple of years ago, but this feels very, very different, right? Botswana and what's just happened in Botswana, ourselves. Right, you say the GNU. All of a sudden you've got to, and then what's happening in Mozambique? I don't think anybody thought that that uprising would happen. Namibia, I could go on and on and on. And then you've got the wars, right? You've got the Ukraine and Russia, and then you've got the Israelis and the Palestinians, and then you've got Trump. And I look at the political sphere and I'm going, what is happening? What is happening? So, Ruth, what do you think?
Well, there's definitely a change, but it's the same that Ala said. It's a change towards, if you're not, everything is extreme. There's nothing. There's no kind of in between. But if you're a little bit this way or that way, you are an extremist towards any of the other side. And that's kind of the issue, and no, not the issue at least, but that makes it easier to divide the people by what they think. Because you think, oh no, you're a little bit this, but no, you're full on that way. If you say currently you are for a traditional marriage household, you are a extremely right person.
And everything else.
And everything else.
The same beliefs as that, even
just because you say that, that might be the only thing. But just because you say that, you are considered as a right-wing extremist now.
Is that intolerance?
Yes. Yes. Absolutely.
We don't. I'm a person who does not operate well in grey areas. I do like my extreme narratives, but the world was very much grey area that allowed me to be able to not necessarily pick a side, kind of just hobble along in the grey area and be happy. Sometimes I'm extreme on this idea, the next time I'm, extreme on the other idea. But do you think, so when you guys look at what may happen in the future, and the future could be 2025, 2026, 40 years from now, right? what do you think this will land us up? Like, where would we end up?
Well, we're probably, as everything is cyclical, so we will get back to the same point where we started with different clothes.
You see, guys, so there's nothing to worry about. It's like it's always.
Whether it takes 10 years, whether it takes 100 years, whatever the case is, it will make a round trip, and we will be back to where we started in any case, and then go with the new eye on things. But I don't think it will be detrimental.
You know, and I'm also just watching your tone, right? He's just like, guys, there's nothing to worry about. It's us emotional people, right? Who take cognizance. Yeah, no, he's just like, look, guys, man, don't stress. This thing is cyclical.
Because in the short term, everything does that. In the long term,
Yes.
it does that.
But that's very interesting because all of you guys are kind of like, guys, there's nothing to worry about. It's correct at some point. You will always go through this, and you're very calm about it. Somebody like me who doesn't look at what numbers tell, right? I get into a frenzy. Oh my God, Trump won.
tells us.
Oh my goodness, it's this. Yeah, right. But I don't like you. Like you guys kind of okay. Now I've kind of looked at the numbers. You know, this is this predictive ways that the world operates. People don't think like that. Right? Normally people think now today it's a mess. That's how we think.
Agree, and I think it's understanding both. I think there will be short-term impacts which are detrimental to society. I think I won't get into political views or anything like that, but I do think we'll get short-term. But long-term, it will all balance itself out. I actually think there's something else that's fueling it. So I do think it's the cycle. I think it is the kind of change of generational power that's coming through. But I also think we have lived through some of the roughest 5 to 6 years that have happened in a long time.
Yeah.
You know, I remember writing about the early pandemic and the impact on the psychological side of post-traumatic stress disorder being likened to having fought in world wars. We have gone through an extreme trauma as a world. And what often happens when you come out of that, and I feel like we're actually only in 2024, 2025 coming out of that. Even though we saw masks and things disappear long ago, I think mentally we're starting to see the shift of coming out of it. And what do you look for is you look for change. Because everything that you had is associated with that difficult time. So you blame the current government, you blame the current wokeness, you blame everything that went wrong is because of that, because your brain doesn't have the ability to separate it out. And because of that, what is the number one thing that I think we'll see people looking for is change. We've seen it with the elections throughout this year. Because it's not like everybody's gone left or everybody's gone right.
It's just like
Whatever they
different.
had, it's the
Yeah,
opposite.
it must be. I just want it to be
The reason there's been
different.
so much conversation is because countries around the world, whatever they had, it's different.
It didn't work.
It didn't work.
Yeah.
It's their fault.
Yeah.
I want different.
It's yes,
So
it's
interesting.
associative. We're
Yes.
associating
Exactly it.
the
So interesting.
aftermath
Mhm.
with the cause of it. And I mean, look, we're going into December. I mean, we're actually approaching 5 years since the first COVID cases were announced.
Is it already 5 years?
5 years for
It feels-
ones in China, yeah.
And it's simultaneously already 5 years, and oh my God, only
Only
5 years.
yeah.
Right? Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
So yeah, there's definitely that desire for change and a desire to move away from almost what caused us pain or what we
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah, yeah.
caused us pain.
Exactly.
Because what we think is clearly what happened.
But what about herd mentality then? So if you look at social media and herd mentality from that perspective, because clearly people are not necessarily applying their minds. We're here talking about data and digging deeper and understanding patterns, etc., in order to be able to make decisions. But we're also saying that politically, there's people are kind of going, what was then is not for now, and I just want the change. But I'm not gonna dig deep as to, what's the right one, what's the wrong one, even though I've got the ability to get more information
Exactly.
because of social media. They're just not.
But I think, with social media, you hear a little bit, so it's almost like what Rudy said, but the reverse of that it's what you do yourself. You see a couple things on social media that you agree with, you assume you agree with everything else, because I think we are more mentally exhausted. So do we want to like go through like unpacking and digging and deciding for ourselves, or do I just take the easy way out?
Yeah.
So what we've got to remember from the psychological point of view or the neuroscience point of view, behavior change is one of the hardest things for a human being. We resist change. It's actually what makes our marketing job really hard. Because behavior change is hard. But we went through a period of having been forced behavior change for 5 years, which means we're all exhausted.
So what do you so what do you think about brands? So if behavior change is that hard, right? But we also say people want something different. Where do you think that places brands, right? Because what I've seen is it's almost like the brands, a new marketer comes in, the brand just like shapeshifts into something totally different with this message that actually has zero resonance with what the brand's always been in the past. And it's almost like you're hoping that to work. And then it doesn't work. And then 2 years later, it's a new message. And then that doesn't work. And then the brand goes from hero to, right, to nothing. So where does that place marketing? And how does data or intelligence start to help make marketers a lot more considered in how it is that we make decisions? Because I don't know that as the marketing industry, as advertising industry, that we use data to make considered decisions. Right now, I can tell you straight up, agencies use data, insights, right? They go insights. Tell me about that guy that lives in wherever,
Exactly.
right? But we've got an opportunity here to be able to use data to make informed decisions. Jaguar had the opportunity to use data to make informed decisions in whichever way, and we'll see with round 2 of what that support is. But we've all seen these campaigns. That happens, the public cries foul, and then all of a sudden, the cat is back, right?
I think like the first thing is like evolution over revolution.
Yeah.
Like almost always. Like you have to be, brand has to be in a pretty detrimental place for like it to be like, let's get reset. And I think that's what, if I put a marketing hat on, why I have a problem with Jag. I think they could have done 80% of what they've done now, but they could have brought in 20% of the history. You can be extreme, but they could have had a stylized line art of the Jag, and they could have had a car somewhere in the background, and you brought a new car design in, because if you're not translating this into your car design, what are we doing it for? But like, so there's ways that you can do it, but I think it's always an evolution. And that's why I also think from a data point of view, I think, listen, I can find you a data point to prove anything you want right now. If you tell me what you want to do, I will find a data.
I work with y'all.
Exactly. So, and I think that is like, where does data fit in? And I think that's why it's so important that data becomes a seamless part of what we do as marketing, and not just a ad hoc part. Because if it's ad hoc, you can make your own story. But when you start to understand what it is I'm trying to do, because of my objectives, these are my measures, I'm going to track them ongoing. 1, I can hold myself accountable. 2, I can like go look for the right data that leads me in the same direction. When you get a new person coming in, which is inevitable, there will always be an interpretation that's different, but it should at least be in the same direction. It doesn't have to be the same path. But why are we U-turning and going in the reverse direction? That's when it's like you're undoing everything you do. There's so much that's like long-term branding is not dead.
And it shouldn't be.
And it shouldn't be. And we have to continue, like that means that progress like builds. It is like, it's that kind of 1 + 1 = 3.
So the interesting thing for me is what Rudy was saying now, right? To go, all of this is actually cyclical, right? And the question when you kind of go, are we going back, or have we lost some of the things that we've done? Is the other big complaint is almost like the juniorization, right, of the marketing function, because all of these brand changes, it's either new marketer, new agency. It's almost like inevitable. New brooms always want to sweep clean, but there's a big thing around the juniorization of the marketing function, and therefore, not caring or not knowing, right, about the depth of what's being put into brands to get them to a point.
So, I mean, coming from a corporate background, a finance background, it's one of the common themes we saw or that I've seen, is marketing no one can quantify. So if your CFO is trying to release funds for budget,
Yes.
he's like, where's it going? But show me that you spent X and we're getting a Y return.
Yeah.
And it's not linear, and it's not obvious, and it's not direct. But when you have that mindset of, I've invested so much, I must get so much back, you kind of trapped in that. And the flip side of that, you almost feel, from a marketing perspective, you're almost trying to justify your existence constantly.
Yeah.
And we're making this big splash. This is what you're spending your money on. Oh, people are talking about us now. It's not. We talk about data, but it's not the subject to the rigors of that and the skepticism.
Yeah.
What are you showing me?
Yeah.
What does this mean? Again, coming back to this, what does this mean? So what? So it's definitely something that I've seen over the years, that that attitude of, if I'm giving you money to spend, what am I getting back?
Yes.
And it's a standard corporate thing. It always comes down to bottom line. It comes down to shareholder value.
So how do you make it make sense for younger marketers who come into an industry that's glorified creativity in the sense of the hot ad, the big music, the big budget items. How do you that make that make sense? Because they come into this big world.
But you can do that, but the platforms that those types of things happen has changed. It's not. It usually was TV ads. You had some ads in the newspaper and a billboard or two, and that everyone saw the billboard and they thought, "Wow, that's a great billboard." Now it's how many people actually now you can pay to not see ads.
Yeah.
Most people do that in any case.
Yeah.
On TV or something. So in stuff like the digital spectrum, where those types of ads, you can track them extremely closely based on your segmentation, whatever it is, and you can change and adapt that. Even in terms of creative, you can make 10 different banners, one blue, one purple, one that, and then at the end of the day, the data guys can tell you the purple one did the best. Why? I don't know, but that's what it did. Something like that. And it's easier to do that in the newer, like the younger generational, the areas of focus, which is on social media, which is on your phone, on that. They're not going to sit there watching the 7 o'clock news hoping to see the ad in between.
Well, the reality is TikTok and TikTok's growth is primarily in the older generation. It's my mother and her friends, right? All the TikToks I've seen in my life, 99% of them come from my mom and my dad.
Okay.
No, for real. For real. And that's where they're seeing their growth from. But it talks to exactly your point. It's entertaining.
Yeah.
It's quick, it's entertaining, they can get it now. Yeah. So I get why it works.
It's
right?
interesting, and like I say, with many things, it's seldom or, it's always and. Because I remember 5 years ago presenting about welcome to the CMO, the CCO, what else did we have? CTOs, all of that, whenever they're around. And it was all about marketing gets a seat at the boardroom table.
Yeah, 2 years ago we used to talk, remember, be like, marketing is part of
and
the
it was the
C-suite.
shift from the CMO
And
to
now-
the CCO, because now it's about the customer and it's not just about marketing. And yet then we also talk about juniorization. And I
Yes.
don't think one has replaced the other. I think they're sitting side by side. And I also think what's happened
The
along
tension
the
of
way is-
change.
Yeah, and I think it's a good thing, because I think when you bring the experience of a CMO, of a CCO that's actually got the years behind them to understand the evolution of branding, but you bring in the new knowledge and the native understanding of what Rudy was talking about in terms of where you connected, and you put those together, that's where we actually see the power. I think where we're seeing the challenges, where it's either or, because we're seeing outdated CMOs lose places around the table, and the detriment that does to marketing, that now that person they couldn't show the return, and because they weren't necessarily keeping up, to also the person that has all of that new knowledge, but you don't yet know what to do with it. And when we can bring those two together, I think those are the brands which are currently the most successful, because we are in this we need to recognize we're on the cusp of change, as
yeah.
society.
Yeah.
And we have to be able to understand what does that mean for us.
It's the tension of
and
change.
I think the people who will do best in marketing are those that embrace the change. You spoke about like what does this like all these changes mean for like brands. I think there's opportunity. Doesn't mean it's easy opportunity, no. Definitely not easy opportunity. But I think naturally society will be going through behavior changes. If a brand can identify those behavior changes early and support it, facilitate it, be built into it, you can do some amazing work. It's very hard. Like my worst campaigns are when you're trying to create a behavior change from scratch for the brand's sake. Because we don't care as human beings. I know in marketing we all think like we love, like everyone loves the brands, everyone thinks a lot about the brands, but we don't. The marketing officer says the consumer doesn't. But if you can marry an existing change of behavior that's coming, it's like that one, and a brand, that's when we see success.
Give me a brand that's done that successfully. On the spot thinking, anybody.
Yeah, that is. You want to assist with that?
Crocs.
Crocs.
Yeah.
Actually.
Crocs, that's right.
And I
actually.
think the rejuvenation of Crocs.
Yeah, it used to be someone's dad in the garden. With
Yeah.
Crocs, and
That's
you're like,
right.
What are you doing? Why you are not allowed to be public with this? And now it's
It's the fashion
the big
statements.
fashion trends.
And
And how and why? No
I remember
idea.
going through that in high
That's
school
right.
and being like, I remember, this really dates me, so guys, please stop that in. I remember joining a Facebook group, because we did that, you guys won't know what Facebook groups are, that said something about like, I don't care how comfortable they are, I will never wear Crocs. And I think that was when I was in high school, because it was this polarizing kind of
Yeah.
debate. And now it's come back, and I think what they tapped into this time was legitimate,
Yes.
which is personalization.
Yes.
And
That's right. They took what sits in digital and literally put it into their
Exactly.
product.
And when Dani and Alesh spoke about it earlier around that data, what the exciting part of data is we get to build this extreme customized world for individuals. Rudy also spoke about it, what the kind of feeding people individual ad. Get to be hyper relevant more than ever before.
Yeah.
And this is the worst it's ever going to be. But we need to build now before you just can't keep up. But we get to actually relate. And I think the campaigns that talk into that
Are starting to make a
the
difference.
original that did that was the Coke campaign with all their naming, all their
Correct.
campaigns around the names.
Yes.
It was so well. Why was it so successful? Because it tapped into your identity.
Yeah.
And they found a great way to be able to do it on a scale before we had technology.
Yes, that's right.
But it's about taking those things that people want and making it like the core of your brand. And then we just
I love that.
shoot. And yeah, like Fox was fascinating. It's like I say, like
Yeah, no,
Fox,
it's
I couldn't understand it the first time, and I was so grateful when they died, and they are so big again.
no, and now they're not going
I
anywhere.
still want to be on that Facebook group. I don't know how to get into my Facebook. I'm off of Facebook because I feel like Facebook is like, but like this is going back.
No,
to, like,
Facebook is for people
when we
my age.
first
I like
joined
it's okay.
Facebook.
Leave us.
Yeah.
She just called me middle age.
Yeah.
This young kid. So I want to
Waiting
touch.
for Facebook to cycle back. When Dani tells me she's on Facebook,
Yeah.
I'll know it's back.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, because that's what will happen, right?
Exactly.
Zuckerberg will go. Okay, I only have because the TikTok people are now the old guys. So all the older
Yeah.
people have left there.
They're
They've
gonna-
gone to TikTok,
Yeah.
and he's left with the Middle Ages.
Yeah.
I reckon it'll cycle back. That's my
And what we
that's my
don't
new thing.
remember,
Yeah?
The brands that don't cycle back, that don't keep up,
We know what happens.
There's brands
seen
along
it.
the way that drop off, that disappear.
We see them over and over and I'll tell you, I worry about the advertising industry, the marketing function, as it is if we don't adapt.
Absolutely.
Right? If we don't change and adapt, you guys will still have jobs because you guys will go work at the bank, at wherever.
Technology disruption.
Yes.
Yes.
It's that meme that says, like it wasn't Netflix that killed video rental. The video rental not being able to innovate and late fees killed itself.
Yes.
It wasn't Uber that killed taxis. The lack of disruption to the taxi industry killed it. And marketing is primed for it. Advertising is primed for it.
Yeah.
We don't disrupt ourselves. Technology
will.
outside of our industry can disrupt us like this.
Now there's a business idea.
Oh, it can be.
Talking about business ideas, let's talk a little bit about the economy. right? I talked to the young people here, and they're going, the repo rates. All right, the repo rate it's coming down, and then our governor does what he does, and he takes like smaller than baby steps, right, to bring it down, because he's obviously a very cautious guy. But Nilesh, you were talking to me about something that you are working on, and I have no idea what it is, but it sounded so interesting. Talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so it is sort of, I guess, collating all these factors into one. So,
Yeah.
what are we looking at the outlook for the repo rate? How does that impact inflation? Because they kind of work in tandem, sometimes leading, sometimes lagging. And what's that mean for how people are spending their money? Where they're spending their money? Or what are they doing? Is it more valuable now? I mean, going to share kind of decision, do you rent, do you buy?
Yeah.
In terms of property.
Yeah.
Even with the rates coming down, is it still feasible? Do we look at return to work, return to office kind of thing?
Yeah.
We see petrol prices coming down.
Yeah.
Oil prices kind of meandering. And part of that's rand based, and people are happy about the GNU.
Yes.
Global perception. Standard & Poor's, I think,
Have. We're out of the bottom doldrum trashy place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what does that mean? What's that mean? I mean, it's great sitting here and putting a financial economics hat on.
Yeah.
But what's that mean for
Consumers.
the consumer?
And therefore our clients.
Exactly.
So what does that mean, guys?
Yeah, I think especially with the GNU now in power, there's more questions onto where we're going to start seeing changes. Like Nilesh is saying right now, with the rand getting a bit stronger and the prices as well. But in terms of the ground, what changes are we seeing in terms of poverty alleviation and quality education and all that stuff? So I think maybe that might take a bit of time to show or reflect, given the amount of time that the GNU has been in power. And
Is that what the youth are concerned with? And I asked the youth question specifically to you, as you are part of the youth.
I mean, I'd say that the youth are concerned about the high unemployment rate that was just published now, over 60%. It's atrocious, but we're still yet to see improvements in that field as well. So yeah, that's
So it's still intention.
Unemployment is always interesting to me because
yeah.
on one end you have our definition of it. So who is economically active,
Okay.
or of working age, who is actively looking.
Yeah.
So you're excluding those who are discouraged, who are basically gone home back to rural Eastern Cape.
Yeah.
Case there, the Pope, just there's nothing out for me in the big city.
Yeah.
So if you look at it from that side, maybe we're underrating unemployment, and it's a lot higher. The flip side of that is the informal economy is huge in South Africa.
Correct.
We make a plan. It's what we do. We make a plan. And if it's street vendors who won't necessarily identify as employed, because also, I mean, if you work for yourself, firstly, do you consider yourself employed? It's also a mind shift, a mindset. And also, I mean,
I feel like you need to go into the statistician general's office to go see how it is that they get to tell us the things that they tell us.
So it's I mean, I had this discussion earlier. Stats SA are phenomenal. They really are. You can find anything there, and the research reports that we say this is our sample base. This is what we've done. This is how we've weighted. This is so their methodologies are all publicly available and published. So if you're so inclined, you can interrogate that further. Does that make sense from at least an academic, intellectual perspective? But yeah, definitely, I think there's a stat for everything. But yeah, certainly going back to the informal market, it's also one of those things that drives basically your consumers, especially at the lower end. From my background, having worked for a company that does vehicle finance for taxis.
We've spoken about anything and everything, which is exactly what happens when we sit in the office and we start chatting. But in and amongst that, there's always then an idea. I mean, Ala and I will be driving, we're like, oh, let's do this. What about this? And she's like, okay, I'll speak to the team. Let me think about it. Let me apply my mind. But I think that's the power of having a team that thinks differently to everybody else, but can integrate into the space, and also they debunk the fear of data and data conversation, for not just for ourselves, but I think for everybody. Ren, I want to ask you as almost a last question, because I can see that they're telling me we're almost on time. Yeah. If I said to you, give advice to young people who want to get into the industry, right? Because a lot of young people ask me that, and I've become so old, I actually don't know what the answer is. And in fact, yes, I'm directing it to you, but all of you are young except that side. I think you could answer the question as well. But what would you say young people should go study in? And it's not about marketing. It's about where you think the world trends are going, right? Because I think the biggest problem with where we are as a country is, I've not seen it, and maybe it's there. When I was younger, we used to have career days, and because it was literally based on go study this, go study that, go study the other. Outside of be a lawyer and a doctor, now there's so many other careers that young people can go into, but I don't know that they know that. Right? So people come to me, oh, I want to do town planning. I say, that's great, go do town planning, but I think you must do something in digital as well, so that you can then, right, in your town planning certificate, build something around the future of cities, right? Ekurhuleni is supposed to be an aerotropolis. Right, we've been talking about aerotropolis for the last 10 years. We're nowhere near anything, because I don't think it was even built with models around making sure that it happens. They put it out as a concept, but there was nothing behind it. That's why it's actually not happened. So, long-winded question, but what advice would you give to young people about what they should try and get into, or how to approach life and work, and therefore trying to reduce our 60%? Right? Because that's not just a government's intervention. And similarly with companies. Back in the day, we used to do training courses. All the agencies used to do it. But like robust training courses. I don't think we do that anymore. We do it. We take in our interns, we do, and there's a couple of others that do it, but like it's not robust. I mean, media is no longer on as a media planning buying strategy, is no longer a course that's offered at one of the colleges, right? It used to be. Like now you something you do it as part of a bigger program. Now you're learning about everything else and not just the skill of media, instead of adding data to it or adding, something to it. We've just kind of gone, it can be part of marketing. So that's my question and my rant.
Thank you, Kaki. That is a great question. I think youth should focus more on tech. I think we are in a fourth industrial revolution right now. Everything is more tech based. So there are courses, certification you can do, data scientist, data analyst certification. If we lean there, I think we're gonna be fine.
Okay. And these courses are online.
Yes, they're online.
So if you don't have a job and you're trying to get somewhere, start doing those courses online. They're free. They find an internet connection, download the thing, do something, right? Whilst you are waiting.
And learn at your own pace. I think we've also got to that stage where, we've known for years and years and years, people learn things differently. We were talking about remembering people's names earlier.
Yeah.
That if you read the name, you make the association.
Yes.
Some people will see the person and be like, okay, I know that, I associate you with whatever. So having almost mixed medium education,
Yeah.
being able to, even if it is video lectures,
Yeah.
or if it is massive
Yeah.
swathes of text or whatever, however works for you to print stuff out at your internet cafe. That's still a thing.
Yeah.
Print it
Yeah.
out, highlight the stuff, or make notes and scribble things down. I learned a lot by actually writing stuff rather than just memory.
Yeah, I think that's
Um,
important.
But being able to do
I
that
think that's important.
at your own pace in the way that works for you.
And doing things that actually interest you, like you've
Yeah.
just finished your Python certification as well, which you just kind of decided to do at night because you clearly don't have enough work to do and don't need sleep. Josh?
Yeah, I concur with Rendani's point. I think, especially like in the rural areas, remote places like where I'm from, there was always this norm of saying that after you graduate matric, go do medicine, go do law, accounts, actuarial sciences in my day as well. But I think there's a huge gap. There's a huge demand, especially in the tech field. I feel like all the industries are adopting technology. There's so much digitization going on that I think it would be dumb not to take advantage of that. I even see, even at Wits, I did study maths, but they just introduced a data science course. It's like an honors level course, UCT as well. We can see that many universities are adopting straight data science course or data analytics courses, which I think, as Rendani said, is a good opportunity to move with the fourth industrial revolution, especially for the youth.
Yeah, and just to add to that, we shouldn't be threatened by AI.
At all.
AI is here to stay. We should embrace it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And actually, AI started a long time ago. It's just that we gave it a name now. But absolutely, AI is our friend. Yeah, it's been around forever.
A computer can do
Now we gave it a name and a face, and now it's
But there have been great advancements in it, and I think
they'll keep on
I
leapfrogging,
agree with
right?
the technology, but I think we also need to be aware what part of the technology you're involved in,
Yes.
because I think there's a large part where technology will replace human beings.
Yes.
But they will displace, not replace.
Yeah.
So how do you, if you're young and you're getting into
That's
your career
important.
for the first time, how do you look ahead, go talk to people in
Yes.
different sectors that you understand where's their niche? Because I think there's a short-term niche that might get you 10 years or 20 years. But if you're about to start your 50-year career, that might be like, okay, great, I'm going to start that. But I know I've only got 10 years in this, and then I need to evolve into the next thing. I think the thing
I
that
like that.
scares me is the informal market with unskilled trainers and unskilled workers, and what the impact it has on that, especially in a country like South Africa. But for everyone else that's skilled, we get to choose our own career path, and we get to build our own skills to future-proof ourselves. And we get to
Get to
find
build our own
opportunities
skills to future-proof ourselves. No, that's important because
And we
we
find
live in a country where it's
ourselves.
somebody else's problem all the
Exactly.
time, right? And I think that's
Exactly.
important.
I'll give you a great example. When we were testing ChatGPT, and we did a whole example last year on what to do. Somebody was playing with it, and we had a competition where people could win a prize. Someone said, "Can I get ChatGPT to do my job?" I said, "Yes, but when I replace you with ChatGPT, please don't complain."
Yeah.
So if your output is what the machine can do it better than you. Make sure your output adds to what a machine can do. Human plus machine, again, and not all.
And
Always
not
my
all.
favorite word.
Okay. That was your parting shot, by
Yes.
the way.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Also going back to tech and the data analysis and kind of thing, corporates are also, I feel, are moving towards problem solvers. You're looking for a problem solver. You're not looking for someone who can necessarily. You need to start there, take the data,
I love
transform it, but then that next step is something that machines won't necessarily be able to do. Is the so what?
Yeah.
It's a what does this mean? Why?
Yeah.
You can plug in and iterate and find, oh, this is maybe causing that, or at least there's a causational correlation.
Yeah.
Kind of being able to discern between the
Absolutely.
two. But
Problem
what
solving.
is the problem that you are solving? What is the solution that you are finding?
That's
You
great.
spoke about the tools earlier.
That's great.
Some of them have come out of, I wish we had something to do this.
Exactly.
Okay, let's see how we can work it. What is your starting point? What is your end point? How
And
do
that's
you
how we've built them.
make the mushy things in the
We've
middle?
built them from conversation to go, could it do this? Could it do that? Yes, no, let me go taste.
Yeah.
Right? There's a lot of testing that this team does as well.
And
That
it,
was your parting shot.
and it can't, but here's another way of doing it, approaching it.
No, totally. That's what I'm saying. Like,
Yeah.
we're iterating, we're talking,
Yes.
we're changing,
Yeah.
we're cutting, we're chopping, we're changing.
Well, for me, it's a little bit more of a cynical take, but a lot of people tend to
Some of
start.
us need to be cynics.
Yeah, they to kind of get away from the I don't like doing this. It's not what I want to do. None of us here are in the scenario where we thought once
Yeah.
you studied or finished studying, this is where you're going to be. Even if it is related to your field or not, it's not necessarily what you're going to be doing. It's like, no, I don't like this. I don't want to do that.
That's true.
That's not the whole point. Yes,
That's
you
true.
should like what you do, obviously, because it would make you more passionate. You will learn quicker because you actually want to learn something. But it's not the be all and end all. Sometimes you have to do something very shitty that you don't want to do.
And that's a life, and that's a life philosophy, right? That
Yeah.
not everything is
Yeah.
going to be comfortable.
Yeah.
We've run out of time. The gents, they are very edgy because I think their batteries are running out. I think we should have this conversation again in the first quarter, and maybe a different one with a different take, right? Because I don't even think we covered of everything that we could have spoken about. But what I like about what we've done is we've kind of delved on things that are either keeping us awake at night or things that we think we should be concerning ourselves with. Insofar as brands are concerned, insofar as the industry concerned, insofar as the sort of work that we that you'll be doing, but also to just get people thinking about different things, right? That the economy is an important factor of marketing and what happens in there, because then that drives consumerism, right? The tension of change, the ways the C-suite sitting versus all the juniors. What do people study in order to be able to come into the industry, right? And then importantly for them to know that this is not a place where you can go, I don't want to do this, I don't want to do that. It's a place of discomfort. It's a place of great amazing results, but it comes with a certain level of discomfort, and that's actually part of life. And then don't be scared of going into mathematics because you think you're going to end up sitting in some room in the back door. Is that the basis of life? Is mathematics itself, it's numbers itself. I know at the beginning I said I'm scared of numbers, etc., etc. But it's because of how we were taught maths back in the day. But I understand the value of mathematics, and that's why we have this team in our group. The Marketing Intelligence Hub, we understand the value of what that brings us as a business, and also I think as ourselves, that intelligence doesn't come from reading a piece of paper and then it says, over 50 countries had the elections this year. Yeah, they did, but so what? Right, that's our motto at Meta. We are curious like that. We're constantly asking so what, and we want all our people, and I think everybody in life should continue to do that. So I think that wraps up this conversation. We'll have another one because they're mathematicians, but they have lots to say. Thank you.